Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Organ Donation India Foundation, and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And as you all are aware that the COVID has struck again. So COVID returns. So today our topic is COVID returns impact on technical education. Technical education, the academic and vocational preparation of students for jobs involving applied sciences and modern technology. It emphasizes the understanding and practical application of basic principle of science and mathematics rather than the attainment of proficiency in manual skills that is properly the concern of vocational education. Technical education has its objectives, the preparation of graduates for occupations that are classed above the skilled crafts but below the scientific or engineering professions. People so employed are frequently called technicians. Technical education is distinct from professional education, which places major emphasis upon the theories, understanding, and principles of a wide body of subject matter designed to equip the graduate to practice authoritatively in such fields as science, engineering, law, or medicine. Technical occupations are vital in a wide range of fields, including agriculture, business administration, computers and data processing, education, environmental and resource management, graphic arts and industrial design, and health and medicine. Technical educational curricula are correspondingly specialized over a broad range. Technical education is typically offered in post-high school curricula that are 2 years in length, are not designed to lead to a bachelor's degree, and are offered to a wide variety of institutions such as technical institutes, junior colleges, vocational schools, and regular colleges and universities. Technology education is the study of technology in which students learn about the processes and knowledge related to technology. As a field of study, it covers the human's ability to shape and change the physical world to meet needs by manipulating materials and tools with techniques. It addresses the disconnect between wide usage and the lack of knowledge about technical components of technologies used and how to fix them. Education is considered as an instrument of social change. Technical education is an important component of educational system, which acted as an important instrument where people are trained in skilled and semi-skilled activities. Technical education is also considered as primary and essential input for overall development of society and nation. From the second half of the 19th century, technical education in India in general and Bengal in particular have grown in a very slow rate. If as an analysis is done with historical process of development of technical education in India, it can be stated that it was laid almost at the same time as in Europe. But its growth in India was very restricted and slow till India became independent. The development of technical education in India took at two separate levels, one represented by colleges or universities and other by schools, which gained importance from 1940s onwards. Technical education is imparted through different kinds of institutions at three different levels in India. India is witnessing the age of science and technology. There is a huge demand of technical education in modern age. The pattern of life evolving in the age is very much different from the one we find in our society even some 50 years ago. General education has been substituted by professional technical education in many cases. Technical education offers good opportunity for employment and successful career. Technical education contributes a major share to the overall education system and plays a vital role in the social and economic development of our nation. In India, technical education is imparted at various levels such as craftsmanship, diploma and degree, postgraduate and research in specialized fields, catering to various aspects of technological development and economic progress. Besides, in this age of unemployment, only technical education can assure one of a job and a comfortable living. Those who are still in the conventional institutions, passing examinations that have little relevance in the modern system, find no opportunities of employment. And quite naturally, they end up becoming the victims of frustration and find themselves alienated from the mainstream of modern world. With their stereotyped general education without any specialization and professional skill, they acquire nothing to contribute to the progress and prosperity of the human society. They are quite aware of this, and this awareness leaves them demoralized. It was not just an end, it was the dream of modern India, and technical education was given the due importance with a view of realizing that dream. India is renowned for producing graduates of the highest caliber, but only a very few compared with its population receive high quality technical education. India has over the years significantly bolstered the quality and availability of technical education, doubling the employment rate of graduates who are now better suited to the needs of Indian industry. So there is a dire need of backing up conventional study and teaching technical education, as it will not only help in the development of the country, but also the person possessing those skills. Technical education is a part of education that is directly related to the gaining of information and skills needed in manufacturing and service industries. For acquiring technical education, there are two structural streams in India: formal and informal. Polytechnics, industrial training institutes, industrial training centers, centrally sponsored schemes of vocationalization of secondary education by the Ministry of Human Resource Development are few of the formal sources of technical education in India, whereas self-learning and small private institutes providing short-term technical courses are covered under informal one. New industrial and labor trends in India have clearly specified the need of technical education. Technical education imparts knowledge of a specific trade, craft, or profession. Technical education, that is, education in some art or craft, is the crying need of the hour. We are living in the times when old concepts of education have undergone a change. We are not in need of liberal education, education that implies training in fine arts, humanities, cultural patterns, and behavior, and aims at developing a man's personality as it was in the pre-independence day. We need skilled workers. Manufactured goods worth crores of rupees are being imported every year. There is dearth of food. Our industries are yet in infancy. We need engineers to man them. We need mechanized farming to increase the output of corn. All this is only possible if we give a technical turn to our education and if skilled labor is made available. As the coronavirus pandemic forces many schools and educational institutions to shift from traditional in-person learning to remote online instructions, career and technical and workforce education programs must modify their classwork for the online environment. The programs traditionally specialized in the skilled trades, applied sciences, modern technologies, and career preparations. Technical courses often provide students with a hand-on curriculum that encompasses a wide range of activities intended to provide students with the skills demanded in the labor market. Advocates of technical courses and career-oriented learning activities such as internships and apprenticeship claims that they can motivate students to be more engaged and improve core academic skills. While research suggests that technical courses provide students interested in vocational careers the opportunity to develop skills such as teamwork, problem solving, and communications, as well as promote college readiness courses declined as states mandated core academic courses for high school students. Unfortunately, students might not be receiving quality career technical education during school closures, which could potentially impact their college and career readiness upon graduation. So because of the COVID, the schools and colleges are closed in almost the entire country. That's why the technical education is facing lots of problem for not getting the training on site, which is very much required for this types of education. Now, why we are talking about the COVID returns? Because yesterday on 22nd May 2021, India registered 2,43,777 new cases of coronavirus, which has taken the country's cumulative tally past 2,65,28,000 cases. Yesterday, 3,788 lost their life. Thus, total death due to corona raised to 2,99,296. Again, I would like to remind our viewers, this is an official figures. As per the media reports, these figures can be 5 to 10 times more, but I am neither saying that that figure is right or this figure is right. This is up to you, what you want to decide. According to health officials, India has administered 19 crores 33 lakhs 72,819 vaccines doses across the country as of yesterday, that is 22nd of May 2021. And it is very unfortunate now because we are administrating only 14 lakhs. Yesterday only 14 lakhs vaccines were administered with a population of 140 crores, where at least 100 crores to be immunizated, and at least we require 200 crores doses. Till now, we have reached to 19 crores 33 lakhs. So a long way to go. Till that time, if lockdown will be released or the unlock process will start, then what will be the condition of the school and colleges, whether they will start or not. And again, because until unless we will not have the herd immunity, the chances of infection are always there. And until unless we will not be vaccinated. And now the third wave, which is now on the way, as the expert says, is going to harm the children or the school-going students. So what is going to be the fate of this? We will have today to discuss this topic, that is COVID returns impact on technical education. We have a very, very expert authority in their field panelist with us. I would like to invite my first guest, and he is Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran is the former visiting professor, IIM Lucknow and University of Texas at Dallas, USA. He is the director of Aldo Private Limited, New Delhi. Professor Saran has done his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad in 1980. He did PhD in 1986. He started teaching and researching business and entrepreneurship since 1984. He published research papers in reputed journals, international seminar proceedings, and chapters in books of readings. He started academic administration phase as dean in 1997, rising to executive director, controlling management and engineering institutes in 2007. Her Highness Governor of Karnataka nominated Dr. Saran to the Senate of Bangalore University in recognition of his distinguished academic contributions. He was visiting professor to University of Texas at Dallas from 2012 to 2019. He also visited Washington State University and President University, Indonesia, on the invitation of the Dean Faculty of Business in 2018. He innovated and implemented a unique model to double the turnover with existing infrastructure in one accounting year. He is co-promoter of Institute of Family Business Management Society. He is honorary director of NCR Delhi-based high-tech B2B digital startup. He is also co-founder of OWGI Foundation, which promotes social entrepreneurship ventures. Welcome, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran on our show. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, as you are well aware, that COVID has come back, and it is this time the mortality rate is very high. Plus, the first wave, it was only for the senior citizens or those who are having some comorbidity. But this time, it is going out and out for everyone, at least for the youth also. And that is a very, very alarming situation, because if the next phase, which is been predicted now, that the third phase is going expected after 5 or 6 months, This will be for the children or school or college going students. Then what will be the fate of the education overall? But today, as we are going to discuss, we would like to know your views on COVID returns impact on technical education. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Lal Goel. It is always a pleasure to be with you because we get to talk and discuss very significant issues which are going to affect not only the future of our own families, but of our entire country. And it will not be an exaggeration that the topic we are contemplating and exploring will impact the whole world's future in years and decades to come. So I am very grateful to you for including me to discuss on this vital topic. Not losing time, in order to make it clear to every viewer today, I will like to take you to the 70s when there was a movie, famous movie made by Mr. Raj Kapoor, the legendary Kapoor family. The name of the movie was Mera Naam Joker. And the movie was made in two parts. In that film, there is a scene that the adolescent goes with the school teacher on a picnic. And on the picnic, the teacher starts a song which became very famous. I am sure most of your viewers will be knowing this one. The song goes something like this. Teetar ke do aage teetar, teetar ke do piche teetar, aage teetar, piche teetar, bolo kitne teetar. Translating it to English, the puzzle goes something like this. There is a bird called teetar, and there are two before it, two behind it. Then it says the bird has one before it, one behind it. Now you tell me how many birds are there. In our discussion today, we will get clarity and answer to this puzzle when we look at the purpose of technical education. Because that is the bird which is being impacted by corona as a bird behind it, and a bird before it is to be explored. Corona as a bird behind technical education, and then we need to identify the bird ahead of it. If we solve this riddle, we will be able to answer the question which you have posed to us. What will be the impact of corona second wave and expected third wave on technical education? And from there, how will we as individuals and society and world in general be impacted? So I have framed this problem in this way for clarity. Technical education is a continuum. Behind it comes a school education. You have very well identified that part in your introduction. So it is not an exaggeration that if a school education is impacted by corona, then technical education cannot escape being impacted. If a school education is impacted favorably by corona, then technical education will be impacted favorably. And if it is impacted adversely, then technical education will be impacted. So two birds are connected. Then the technical education is never an end in itself, not in developing countries at least. Technical education is always a means either for industrial growth or for raising the standard of consumption. Both of them ultimately connect in the standard of living. So the bird ahead is, if our life today, our consumption pattern is impacted by coronavirus, then again, technical education is going to be impacted. So it is like between a rock and a hard place, which technical education finds itself today. Technical education on one end is impacted by the school education system and other education. The other end consumption of the society is being impacted by corona. So that end is impacting technical education. And this is the system's view of thinking. I have taken the 360-degree view so that our viewers completely understand the issue which you have brought up for us to analyze and understand. Having said this, let me mention this point, which is very important. Corona, like anything God has given to man, is never a unmitigated blessing or unavoidable curse. Let me re-emphasize. Corona is not a unmitigated disaster nor a unwanted blessing. It is, like everything else, a blessing in disguise in some aspect and a curse to pray against visiting us. But it has visited the country, and worst of all, as you mentioned, we have got our own India version of corona, which technicians are calling B.1.1.167. The reason I'm mentioning this one is you very well underscored the fact that in last wave, the seniors were impacted, which means the teachers, the principals, and other people connected with providing technical education were the victim. In the second wave, the younger people, that is, the lecturers and the senior staff, are being the casualty. And then you mentioned the third wave is around the corner, which will impact the younger population, the teenage student in technical institutions. They will be impacted. So this is the disaster side. We have now to mull over what safeguards do we have against corona impacting technical education beyond point of rebuilding. Earthquake comes, buildings are destroyed, roads are destroyed, electricity supply is interrupted, water supply is disrupted, and then, you know, pandemic or sorry, epidemic definitely visits. Serious diseases going through the earthquake impacted area happens, and then Red Cross rushes, other countries rush in, and rebuilding happens. So now I, visualize that we will be looking at the impact of corona on technical education, first wave, second wave, third wave relatively. And also my suggestion is we should think of what rebuilding efforts will be needed, because after all, whatever is lost, we cannot prevent after the fact. As management person, what I am worried is how shall we as a society cope with the adverse impact which corona is going to put on technical education. And I will mention one story which will tell us what is the value of our discussion today. There was a very famous late politician by the name Mr. Manoham Shyam Joshi. He became Lok Sabha speaker as well. When he passed his college education, he wanted to have a livelihood. No job was coming his way. So in his home village, he started a tuition service. Only 4 students joined his tuition, and then he persevered, and he built the first polytechnic in his village. That was the beginning of grassroots level technical education in our country. Then when he started the technical polytechnic education, he also obviously created a trained manpower which industry wanted. Result was the villagers were so grateful to Mr. Joshi that they started, having a soft corner for him in their heart. When he expanded this over the area, then what happened is Manohar Sham Joshi became kind of savior for an entire area. And today it is history. He was one politician nobody could ever defeat, because the villagers were so grateful for the technical education. What I'm saying is, if the corona continues the way it is, it will make it impossible to follow Manohar Sham Joshi model. Another Manohar Sham Joshi cannot come up that way. So this is the dire consequence we are seeing and facing. I'm sure my other panel members will highlight other topics. So I will stop here and listen to them with respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, for giving your views. And what Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, he has given in details, but only one thing I would like to highlight, because what he said is we have to be very, very careful. We have to see what type of new techniques should come. We must we should discuss, decide what types of technical education, because according to him, even if the students are going to be affected, or the teachers or the principals are going to be affected, or the industry, the consumption is going to be affected, in any case the technical education is going to be affected. And so the technical education is a like a sense in a sandwich position. One side is the school going children's, the other side is the industry, and the in between is the technical education. So according to him, until unless everyone is not perfectly all right, the technical education is going to be impacted. Now only thing is how it is going to come out, that we have to see, and that we will discuss. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, for giving your views. Now I would like to invite my next panelist, and he is Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal. Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal is the former professor of marketing, innovation and management, IIM Lucknow, XLRI Jamshedpur, and California State University, USA. He is president of Indo-Gulf Marketing Association. He is US Fulbright Fellow, Boston, EFMD Fellow, Paris, and British Council Fellow, London. In 2019, he was ranked among the 251 most fabulous global education leader. Welcome, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal on our show. Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, you have heard what Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran has mentioned, and he is of the view that corona should go. Otherwise, if there will be corona either in the school going students, or for the adults or the industry, the technical education will be impacted. So we would like to know from you your views on COVID returns impact on technical education. Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, please. Please unmute.
Thank you very much, Professor Lal Goel. Always you bring out the issues that affect our life, that may affect our future, and that may affect our capability also for any time in life. I have never mentioned on your show, in all my previous appearances, that I'm coming from Dubai. I think today is the time that I should mention that I'm coming from Dubai, because it is directly related to the topic we are discussing, TVET, Technical and Vocational Education Training Institutes. The reason is that this country, where Dubai is perhaps the most known city of Dubai, or Emirate of Dubai, of UAE, this country, United Arab Emirates, which was started as a country in 1971, is built by TVET people, technical and vocational education people. The country needed not professors like me or any other professor. What they needed was technicians. What they needed was construction workers, skilled construction workers. What they needed was skilled typists. What they needed was skilled people in every trade that the country could use. This was the foundation of the economy of this particular country, and which I'm very proud to say India had provided that. And not only just India, but probably at that particular time, the most literate state in the country, Kerala. Kerala provided the kind of population that this country needed. And if you ask any people here in UAE, they are grateful to Kerala, they are grateful to Malayali people, they are grateful to people, hardworking, educated people, trained because of that reason. And later on, this became not only the story of UAE, but it became the story of the entire GCC. Gulf Cooperation Council countries, the 666 sisters which are there in this, whether it is Oman, whether it is Saudi Arabia, all these three industries are grateful to India because of the trained manpower it provided. I'm using the word trained, not educated manpower. It is a very, very clear message, which I think corresponds, not only corresponds, but it also resonates with what you so beautifully described as the evolution of education, differentiation between one type of education to another, differentiation between one type of providers to another to another. So I see TVET not only just as a builder of the economy of many other countries, but also as the earner of very important foreign exchange, which came to India from Gulf country GCC. So IIMs, IITs did not bring that money. TVET people brought that money to India in the first place. These are trained technicians and plumbers and all other stuff people that we need. The third phase of this TVET's importance came when IT came into picture, where instead of vocational education, technical education became the mainstay of that. So the revolution which Narayan Murthy and others and TCS and all those people they started because of this technical education, where India became the supplier of all these ITES, information technology, services, and related services. All those particular things they started. The outsourcing that we see, the kind of KPOs, knowledge processing services, which started later not as vocational education, not as technical education, but they started more as education. So while we have evolved from that particular time, but I still want to with all humility, like to say that your topic actually is the mainstay of the economy of India, not only for India, but for the outside world. So if we look into this particular problem from our problem or point of view, that will be a narrow way of looking at it. The more perhaps comprehensive way is that how the entire world is going to be affected because of either the shortage or unprepared or unskilled skilled labor which India is going to provide to them. Now, this unskilled or underskilled or underprepared people is because of the problems, and chief among them at this particular moment is this corona. Now, I totally agree with my learned friend, Dr. Sudhir Sharan, when he gave phenomenal examples of how this corona is affected and affecting the entire thing, and how he says that, it has to go. I agree, but at the same time, I also would like to humbly say that this is not our problem, our weakness. It has come as an environmental problem for, in other words, that the only thing that is open to us is to respond to it rather than to wish it away. We cannot wish it away. Like in the case of any organization, there are weaknesses internally and there are threats externally. It is a threat externally which is not in the control of the people. The only control that they have is how to respond, like what you were saying in terms of vaccine distribution or vaccine administration or vaccine distribution. That is like what we call under our system SWOT. So strengths and weaknesses are controllable by us, but the opportunities and threats are only respondable. They are not controllable. So therefore, corona is something which we can only respond rather than control from that point of view. It is not our weakness or our doing. Now, given this situation, how this entire ecosystem of TVETs is getting affected, let's look at that. The first stakeholder of all this particular situation is the Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Labor in India. Why? Because it is the body which takes care of this through these national qualification standards for vocational education, which it does through institutions. Number one, of its own, which they call it Directorate General of Training, DGT, and the second, they do it through public-private partnership, and that is National Skill Development Agency. Now, these two institutions, one of its own and second in collaboration with private parties or PPP model, they are providing the standards. My worry is what will happen of those standards. How those particular standards will be taken care of in order to be qualified, in order to be seen, in order to be perceived that we are really the credible people, credible institution, credible society, which is providing competent people. And our certification means something to them. That particular certification will be an issue. So that is number one stakeholder in this particular problem. The second stakeholder is the institutions which are providing this education, whether it is the vocational education school or college, or like what he mentioned at the private level, like private tutors or tutor agencies or tutor institutions, or whether it is this industrial training institutes, ITIs. All those particular institutions are having both a blame as well as, I would say, an impact of this situation, where they are not being, I would say, administered in the most effective manner. And I'll give you some examples of these things in few minutes with the report or quoting the report of ILO, International Labour Organization, that how did they do or what kind of data is emerging, and where is India in that data points as far as technical education and COVID is concerned. The third is the infrastructure and finances itself. Infrastructure and finance both are in very, very bad shape, because traditionally these institutions have never been fully equipped, never been fully funded, never been in access of this, because they were, sorry to say this, they were not sexy institutions. They were solid institutions, but they were not as sexy as medical or probably MBA or any other thing. So they never received the kind of tuition, money, scholarships, or funding that others received the way that we provided them. And reason was also this, that the output of those institutions also did not get millions of dollars or millions of rupees as salary, or yes, they were solid, as I said, but they were not fetching the kind of money. Unfortunately, in India, the casteism also applies to the jobs. That which job you are, that also makes you the high priest, or probably the person who is at the lowest of the social hierarchy, because of the kind of profession we are in, like plumbers, like electricians. Those who should be receiving the highest respect do not receive that. But others who are a little bit more educated but technically incompetent, they become the high priest of our society. So from that point of view also, there is a problem there. How do we get money for them? Now, given all those particular situations, certifications, delivery point, as well as the entire system of ranking them, there is an issue, and that issue is how do we respond to them? Let's look at the report which came out about 4 months ago in ILO, in which they mentioned what is the impact of COVID over the TVET institutions of technical and vocational education institutions. And they are saying that 90% of these particular institutions have closed or partially closed. 90% of the institutions, which means there will be a very clear shortage of skilled labor throughout the world. And the major providers like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, who were big time in this GCC countries, now they will receive a huge problem. Already we are seeing that we are being replaced by people from North Africa in this part of the world, or Philippines, or Indonesia, or Vietnam, or Sri Lanka, or many other places. But fact of the matter here is that we really are the bulk of the providers, bulk of the suppliers. And it will become a mystery to the world, the same way the mystery is today, that how come that the pharmaceutical factory of the world cannot produce enough, vaccines in its own country, and not taking care of its own brothers and sisters, as we are seeing at this particular moment. So what do we do? Number two, we need to go into alternative, methods. Alternative method is that we must now produce institutions which are virtual institutions, not physical institutions, but virtual institutions, not a lab of, for the I would say, the way that we see it in terms of carpentry or electrician, or in we should create now a visual but virtual labs where people can do exactly the same thing that they were doing physically. And there are many countries which have shown the way. For instance, there are in South Korea, many South Korean professors have created videos of their own training, teaching horticulture, teaching carpenters and all, where video has been given to them. And the video is being taken by the professor from the students to see what is the impact of what they have taught through online video and all. Which means we must move from this traditional brick and brick mortar to perhaps a brick and click model. Brick mortar model must go into digital thing where the same education there, and which means that the earlier institution which I mentioned, ministry, must also recognize the scope of improvement as well as standards differentiation when this education is being provided in a virtual mode. About 2 years ago, I had written a big feasibility report for the Ministry of Skill Development only on this itself, that we need to create now digital ITIs rather than ITIs that we have. And it had nothing to do with COVID, because nobody knew that COVID will be like that. The whole point was, why not create a network of ITIs digitally and provide the same thing that we are providing at a decentralized manner, that is villages, small villages, hamlets, or groups, where the information can be given in a self-taught mode through videos, interactive videos, through variety of other technical information that we have, or technologies that we have, that we can provide that. So this gives me to the third point, alternative methods of imparting education. Now, I know that many people don't like online education, and there is a real problem of bandwidth. There is a real problem of infrastructure. There is a real problem of monetary resources also. Because after all, in India, now it has become, unfortunately, at one point it was a wonderful move, but this move itself has become a bane of India, which is called the rule of three. The rule of three in management says that over a period of time, three companies will rule the industry. Three companies. These three will become 80-20 kind of thing. That 20% of the institutions will control 80% of the market, not through monopoly, but because of size, because of the global size, like Geo, like Vodafone or Airtel. Now these three have become the rule of three, and which means it will also affect our costing structure. It will also affect our, but anyway, that is a point for some other time. But rule of three also creates costing problem, affordability problem, accessibility problem. Why? Because MTNL and BSNL have already faded. So government has very little role to play in providing or widening the access to this thing at a lower and affordable price. The fourth is us, the teachers. We teachers are neither equipped nor attitudinally ready to give alternative methods of assignments. We are still seeking for the same assignment. For instance, why whatever we are teaching cannot be done at a local level, at a home level. And at a home level, you do the project and you show the project to the teacher, whether it is having the same principles or an application of what you have learned or not. Why do we have to show field visits? Why not have neighborhood visits? Why not have our society visits, the societies in which we are living, and do the same projects and assignments with the same kind of efficiency and joy, where not only society as well as the neighborhood benefits, but you also get to test what you have learned in the class. Why are we still having the same projects that impact of COVID on, let us say, electric industry? Why can't we say that impact of COVID on the local traders in this particular area of Delhi or Bangalore or Ghaziabad or any other place? Principles are the same, but the scope of those particular assignments gets miniaturized. Rather than macro, it becomes micro. And that micro assignments will also help the students, help the receiving society, as well as meet the goals of that. The final thing is about the money or monetary thing that I mentioned through the ILO report. I think we really, really need crowdfunding. We need crowdfunding in order to create funding and financing opportunities for these institutions on a, and I'm very, very responsible in what I'm saying, on a modest profit basis. In other words, we don't have to go by the old thing that it has to be non-profitable, it has to be funded, it has to be financed, it has to be deficit financed. No, make it a self-sustaining model like we have crowdfunding in any other place. Let there be a profit. Why not? If a Baiju can do work, if Baiju can be the wonderful company from India, why can't there be another company which can have similar thing in terms of TVETs? Why it has to be only seen as the poor cousin of education to be funded by the our own Uncle Sam, that is the government. So I believe that there is a very, very huge opportunity for the entrepreneurs of India to come into TVETs as a profitable business venture industry, so that we can take care of these problems which we have been taking. Because losing the position of the supplier of the world, other than China, of course, China is also big, it's a supplier, but other than China, if we can show to the world that we have transformed ourselves, then I think that will be the best, perhaps shining cloud out of the misery that we all are facing in the COVID. So to conclude, Mr. Goel, two things I would like to say. Number one, please see it also as an opportunity area, not as something which is concerning. Concerning it is. It is concerning every aspect of our life. But we can also bring in some more model. I mean, Mr. Lal himself is a good example that how he built a channel, how he built a particular medium of educating the country through a digital mode in a very, very difficult period. I think, an individual with the vision can do more things than individual with a purse. And that's the thing that I'm trying to say, that we need more imaginative and visionary people in terms of creating an alternative models of creating, funding, and continuing this activity. That is point number one. And point number two that I would like to say is that society and government both must accept that this is as good a method of imparting education as it has been given in the past in the traditional manner, where the schools and colleges were the place you will go there. I would say let schools and colleges go to the homes rather than homes. People should come from their homes to, and an excellent example of that, and that is the last point I'll make. Excellent example of that is UAE. In this particular country, one particular institution has outshone all others, and which is from the royal family, and it is from Prince Hamdan Smart University. This smart university never gave any physical education. It always gave digital education, or at the most, some blended education, that some physical classes, but mostly digital classes. And that has become now a model for the entire world. People coming from Italy, people coming from UK, people coming from USA, they are learning from this particular university, that how you are bringing in the best technique. So my feeling is, let's reboot ourselves, let's rethink and bring a new model of TVETs as a part of this particular solution to this problem. Thank you once again for this opportunity, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mohan Agrawal, for giving the details about the impact on technical education. And one point which I would like to highlight is of Professor Dr. Mohan Agrawal is, he says, leave this brick and mortar model, come for the virtual model. He says, why not the technical education cannot, why it cannot be provided on virtual mode? And he says this is very, very much possible. He has given an example of a UAE university, and he says that UAE university is totally 100% or 99% virtual, few the hybrid. So he says that all the students from the top countries are coming to take the education when they can do it. And he very interestingly, he said that the UAE was done because of the technical education in India. But unfortunately now, as per Dr. Mohan Lal Agrawal, the ILO report says that the 90% of our education, technical education institutions are closed. And they are, and I will also give the report some other data which shows that how much skilled we are. So when this is the condition, the government, public, the civil society, the educators, they all have to come, and they must come forward to see to it how the technical education, which is a very, very important aspect, as Professor Dr. Saran has also mentioned, and Professor Dr. Agrawal has mentioned very clearly, this is the backbone of any country. Because without the technical education, you cannot build a country, you cannot build anything. And for that reason, he emphasized that we must reboot ourselves, we must rethink, and we must come out with new ideas. When he has given an example of one of the education platform, I will not name it, which is very, very successful platform. When they can do it, why not the others follow that? So according to Professor Dr. Mohan Agrawal, we have to think very fast. We have to change, whether it was a pre-COVID time or this time. We have to change, and we have to think, and we have to take the model of about the virtual model. Although he also mentioned that there are problems in India, the infrastructure is problem, monetary problem, all those problems are there, but that has to be taken care. And he has also given a very, very interesting point, is the crowdfunding. Yes, we all know that today many of the oxygen generators which are coming to India is through the crowdfunding, where it is very much required. So the crowdfunding is there, but for that, the government has to change lots of laws. They must give flexibility, as Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal has very rightly said. Why only the NGOs model? It should be some profitable model, then only the crowdfunding or other fundings or the venture capital can come. So very nice idea. I must say that these types of ideas which are emerging from the media conference with Lal Goel is going to taking a very, very interesting point I would like to share for a moment, although it's not the right time, but I would not like to hide. I would like to inform all our viewers that in one of our media conference of the soft power, one of the panelists suggested that the why not India create an international broadcasting company on the lines of BBC, Voice of America, etc., so that the art and culture of our country can also be shown to other countries. Other countries, the people are and only seeing the snake charmers or the beggars or those who are dying, but they are not being aware about our traditional, our culture, so much heritage what we have. And I would like to tell you with a very, very in a happy mood today, because it is a very, very happy news that the government of India has accepted that suggestion, because that suggestion was first discussed on media conference with Lal Goel. It was forwarded to the government of the day. After it was screened by a screening committee, it has gone up to the topmost level and the clearance have come. And very shortly, the international broadcasting company is going to function. So that's why, like now, this suggestion, which is a very, very positive suggestion, I am sure the government of the day, which is taking the suggestions, positive suggestion, and implementing it very fast, if they will do such type of take those suggestions and implement, the day is not far that we will have a drastic change even in the field of technical education. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, for giving your views. Now, I would like to invite my next guest, and he is Professor Dr. Janeshwar Pai Marur. Professor Dr. Pai is MBA, MPhil, PhD. He is a professor at Justice K.S. Hegde Institute of Management, NITTE. He has qualified KSAT management examinations conducted by University of Mysore in 2013. He has over 18 years of industry, teaching and research experience. He has worked as lecturer at SDM College of Business Management and Postgraduate Center for Management Studies and Research, Mangaluru from 2003 to 2006. He has worked with JP Morgan Chase Bank in India and New York, Delaware, USA corporate office from 2006 to 2012. His teaching and research areas including behavioral and corporate finance, enterprise risk management, and corporate taxation, and has a strong exposure in practical knowledge of the various statistical packages such as SPSS, MAT Lab, etc. He has published research papers in national and international journals and also presented research papers in various national and international conferences, seminars, and workshops. He is a life member of Indian Institute of Banking and Finance, IIBF, Mumbai, Management Training Consortium, Global MTC Global Bangalore, International Association of Academicians and Researchers, INAAR Pune, Indian Academicians and Researchers Association, IARA Assam, and Federation of Indian Professional Trainers, FIPT, New Delhi. Welcome, Professor Dr. Janeshwar Pai Marur on our show. Professor Dr. Pai, you have heard. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, you have heard. Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal. And they have given the views. They are worried about the impact or the COVID returns impact on technical education. But Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal is very optimistic, and he says if we will change from brick mortar to the virtual digital model, definitely we can impart the technical education to the students. Although there are lots of reservations, but until unless we will not start something, we will not achieve anything. So now we would like to know from you your views on COVID returns, impact on technical education. Professor Dr. Janeshwar Pai Marur, please.
Respected Lal Goel sir, senior academicians, Professor Dr. Sudhir Sharan, and Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal. Let me put across my views on this topic, the COVID returns impact on technical education. What is the roadmap for technical and engineering education? How do we create and strengthen our technical education institutions to better equip ourselves, perhaps even greater challenges such as climate changes, cybersecurity, and urban mobility? I would say the COVID returns is a second wake up call, highlighting the urgency to look at everything in a new way. I'm sure in future, there will be no more wake-up calls. It will be all about hitting you hard without any prior notice. The contagion and virulence of COVID-19 has impacted the world and all aspects of education, which resulted in drastic sanitizing and social distancing. Technical education is a very challenging domain, let me tell you, that requires adequate integration of classroom tutoring with synchronized lab instructions. I'm sure the today's panel would agree with me when I say COVID-19 pandemic has put the technical education in a quandary through daunting challenges. I'm primarily referring to, let me be very clear what I'm referring to. I'm primarily referring to the professional technical engineering education in India. The technical education has rarely seemed more uncertain than it does today. As COVID returns in its new avatar, and many more avatars are still awaited, as Professor Sudhir Saran rightly said, with new mutants. No one can project with any assurance what's going to be my new enrollments of students, what's going to be my student retention ratio. And let me tell you, no one can tell with any confidence when our lush green campuses will physically open up. Meanwhile, if you look into the other side, the institutions' costs have started shooting up. The transition to move from offline mode to online mode, such as Zoom or Microsoft Teams itself, is very, very expensive. Institutions have to pay humongous cost, say for new software license fee or simulation cost, or even providing laptop to the faculty members so that they can work from home to ensure that all students can learn online effectively during the pandemic. But let me tell you, Mother India has her own grand challenges, which is applicable only to her and not for the rest of the world. And the COVID-19 has added more fuel to the fire. Let us understand the COVID-19 is also exacerbated by the fact that the state of engineering and technical education in India is far from encouraging. Let me put some statistics from the National Employability Report. It talks about stubborn employability, which we never heard in the past. The report says 80% of the technical or the Indian engineers are not fit to be not fit for any job in this particular knowledge economy. Only 3.84% of engineers are employable, are employable in software related jobs and the startups, that too at the startup level. Less than 3%, if I want to tell you the exact numbers, it's 2.54% of engineers possess next generation technical skills such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science engineering, and mobile technologies. 37.7% of Indian engineers cannot even write an error-free code. But as compared to China and the US, in China, it is just 10.35%, but we are 37.7%. Only 40% of engineering graduates land up doing internship, and 36% of the students do projects beyond their coursework. In fact, with a heavy heart, I should say this, that paid online internship, which is getting popularity during this pandemic time, is becoming a very, very lucrative business opportunity for some of the industries. Now, let me go and talk about the US. In fact, US has much higher proportion of engineers compared to India, almost 4 times, to be very frank, who have good programming skills compared to India. Then comes the question, where exactly is the problem? Does the problem lie in the technology or technical education itself as a discipline? Or is there a problem the way it is being taught as during the online pandemic or before pandemic? Or is the problem with the students who are graduating from various disciplines? But let me tell you, the real problem is that students are trapped in a college bubble. And COVID-19 has messed up the entire situation of technical education by offering ODL mode, online distance education with zero preparations, I would say. Students, on the other hand, also have less industry exposure. As I highlighted the statistics from National Employability Report earlier, it also says only 47% of the students attend industry talks. Please go back and let us ask our students, do you really listen to TED Talks? Many students will be very silent or quiet. 60%, we can't just blame the students. We also need to blame ourselves and the faculty members also. 60%, all this data is coming up from the National Employability Report. 60% of the faculty do not discuss how engineering concepts apply to industry. So blame is also from the faculty end. Now, if you look from the viewpoint of engineering seats in many colleges, private and deemed universities have remained unfilled. And AICTE last year in 2020 decided not to grant any more permission to new affiliated technical and engineering college. Let me tell you, technical education has distinct features as compared to non-technical domains. These technical students are required to develop a design approach by learning theory and basic concepts in classroom, followed by practical experimentation in the lab for psychomotor learning in order to enable themselves to solve real-time problems. Yes, I agree that the learning theory and the basic concepts have been addressed somehow through Zoom and other online sessions. Design, development, and hands-on lab practices is a very key component of technical education or instruction. Although virtual labs, how many of us can afford? Virtual labs are effective in delivering the fundamental concepts of technical education. It may be very challenging to design and conduct labs where the interface with the hardware must be developed by the student themselves and they are not skilled enough. My worry is laboratory activities have been completely disrupted when technical education were designed for the online context during both the waves, first wave as well as second wave. The continuation of instructional changes have substantially added stress. You ask a student, are you stressed? He will say, yes. I have increased the stress levels among students, and this might impact, I should say, the future enrollments to technical education. Even during the second wave, students enrolled in technical education, somehow they reviewed the lecture notes and submitted assignments through low-tech solutions, I should say, low-tech solutions like the emails and WhatsApp, when the online and distance education was abruptly overnight introduced by the technical education institutions. So the conclusion is going to be, what type of substandard quality engineering graduates are we producing in 2020 and 2021? Let us look into what is happening into the rural areas also, rural engineering and government colleges. The quality of technical education has been drastically reduced because of the difficulty in providing practical training online. The sad plight is students don't have laptops or the smartphones. Teachers are not compatible in using simulation modes and delivering lectures using limited access to internet. Both ends, at the teacher as well as the taught, both are having internet issues. At this point, we don't know the extent to which COVID-19 will cause some proportion of technical colleges to close down or merge. The most vulnerable of the tuition dependent institutions, particularly the ones who have already been facing demographically driven declines in declines in demand, will be the hardest to hit by this pandemic. As it returns, for the vast majority of colleges and technical university that will survive COVID-19, I'm not saying they will all get vanished. They might survive. The most likely they might see declines in revenue and the increase in the costs. So on the positive note, let us not just think that COVID is going to cause disaster. On a positive note, let me tell you that COVID is offering genuine opportunities for technical education to emerge stronger while retaining the attributes that inspire other societies to envy and emulate. Most of the universities offering technical and professional educations have started redesigning their structures for enabling multi-entry, multi-exit options as per the NEPE guidelines. This will make our courses flexible and students can choose between certificate, diploma, or a degree. Therefore, I would say the success of technical education for both the near and long-term future, we just can't talk about near future, long-term future, depends on providing students positive learning experiences which are associated with the academic emotions during the establishment of this new normal online technical engineering education. To conclude, I would say, let us not be disheartened. Let us be very optimistic that the post-COVID world will accelerate the pace of digital transformation, and this will increase. I somehow feel that digital transformation will increase exponentially. To increase, to help navigate in this new world, India and the world, not just India, the entire world would need technical graduates, and it's not going to be less for sure. The premium on technology talent is going to be very high or higher, but not lower. Every engineer or a technician will be more employable than before. However, it is all conditions apply. These technical graduates will need fundamentally different competencies and need to be educated differently. Then comes the question, how? A broad-based study of interdisciplinary contemporary technologies, a mindset to deal with uncertainty, to innovate, to self-reflect, and to collaborate. So quality of learning should be improved significantly through financial support to students, providing internet access, particularly to the rural areas. As the previous speakers rightly said, in this regard, I see a major role of the government, the civic society, and the public-private partnership model is going to be very, very crucial. The government also needs to prioritize. In fact, the technical education has been kept somewhere underneath. The government needs to prioritize technical education and undertake long-term policy interventions, say for next 5 to 10 years, to ameliorate the low rate of engineering admissions and employability. We also know that India has to almost triple its education capacity in next 10 to 15 years to go for gross enrollment ratio, which is currently 25%. We need to make it 50%. And technical education is in the last 30 years have fueled India's success in the IT industry. High-tech solutions such as simulation and virtual laboratory must and should be done immediately. We cannot wait to hold on anymore. In addition to instructor-based training, changing mindset towards blended learning will be very important as a future course of action. Let me tell you to all the panelists that the time has now come. As the COVID returns, we academicians need to write a new playbook for engineering and technical education. And in this new playbook, students will be problem solvers and innovators with interdisciplinary approach. We need to devise strategies to adapt with the extraordinary uncertain environment, not just to address immediate crisis, but for a long-term future. Thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Pai, for giving your views. And you have very clearly mentioned, and you are very optimistic, and you are saying that the future is great. I would not like to summarize because of the paucity of time. I would like to go directly for the question. My first question goes to Dr. Sudhir Saran. Dr. Sudhir Saran, one side, we are talking very high about our engineers, our technicians. I will just give a report. The Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, IIT Bombay, has emerged as India's best institution in 2021 QS World University ranking for the 4th year in a row. However, this time it has slipped to 172nd rank from 152nd rank in 2020. Following IIT Bombay's IIT Delhi that has bagged the 193rd position. Why? We are 172nd. We proudly say IITs are the best. The engineers are best. I'm not talking of ITI because there is no world ranking of ITI. And you, as already Professor Dr. Agarwal has mentioned, the ILO's report. So when this is the condition, and now 2021, everybody knows how the examinations were conducted or not conducted. And the same thing is going to happen in this 21-22 session. Why not declare it as a 0 year? Why we are just giving the wrong impression to the world that we are producing quality engineers without examination, without giving the proper education, Why not declare the 0 year? Let the pandemic should be subside, or we will have the herd immunity. Then give a proper training and then come out. Otherwise, this ranking will go below 500. What you say about this, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran?
To me, the question is so clear as if it is the difference between day and night. The problem that you have painted before me to respond to is the government is a organization like a big white elephant. It is bureaucracy in technical terms. The IITs and technical education, if they have to improve their ranking from the present level, they need to be innovative from beginning to end. From A to Z, they have to be innovative. And therefore, if at all government is not having the courage, the desire to provide the autonomy to IITs and IIMs and other technical institutions, it will not happen. I have no ambiguity about it at all. So therefore, the problem is precisely structural in Indian education system. And sorry, whenever
Yes, yes.
innovation is mentioned, I get encouragement from here. So let us be very clear that if we want to overcome the disastrous impact of things like corona on technical education, the minimum that we can do, as my colleagues have mentioned, Professor Mohanlal said, government had to change a lot of things about crowdfunding. And Dr. Pai said we have to change about instructors' mindset and a student's mindset. When these three things come, I think your dream, my dream, that our capital will be giving us better returns than they are at present. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. Now my question goes to Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal. You have given the report of ILO. I will also give one report. The report said the current data suggests that only 2.3% of the workforce in India has undergone formal skill training, as compared to 68% in UK, 75% in Germany, 52% in USA, 80% in Japan, and 96% in South Korea. Why? When this is the situation, this I am talking of pre-COVID time.
Right.
Now, this COVID time, I'm sure it has gone further, because there is no schools, colleges, and we are talking of skill training, or we are talking about the digital training. The pre-COVID time, our condition is this. And you rightly said that government has tried, but that is a disaster. What you say about this? What is the solution, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal?
I totally agree with you, and excellent question and excellent viewpoint you have brought in order to create a new dimension into our discussion. The solution is also fortunately very simple. We need to have what is known as professional licenses as a requirement for anything that we want to start in technical or trade business. For instance, to give you one example, and again I'm giving the example of UAE, here each and every person, whether he's a barber or whether it is a masseur or whether he is an electrician, they have to have a technical qualification certificate, and it has to be further validated by a test which the government takes in order to start a business or in order to work in a business itself. In India, there is no entry barrier for anyone to come into plumbing, to come they are learning while working. They are not learning before that. So as we have in India, the professional requirement for lawyer, certification requirement, bar council, we also have this medical council of India and many others. I think requirement of a certificate is number one priority for anyone to either hire or not hire. You may know a lot, never mind, but you must go through that.
Okay, thank you, Professor Dr. Mohan Alagral. Although I will add one thing, you mentioned about the medical. Unfortunately, in India, a homeopath doctor can perform surgery that has been allowed by the government. Now, you can understand when this is the situation in India, and they are manning the COVID centers. There are no qualified doctors left, and anyway, we will not like to comment. Otherwise, that's
No,
a different topic.
that is an emergency situation.
No, no,
So
even
let's leave it for that moment.
even otherwise also. Now they have been allowed. The Ayush doctors are allowed to perform surgeries.
Yes,
So
yes.
one can understand what is going to happen with the health of the country. Anyway, now my question goes to Professor Dr. Janeshwar Pai. Dr. Pai, I would like to give some data. With rupees 12,000 crores funding from the government, Prime Minister Honorable Mr. Modi's favorite skill development program has turned into a disaster. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, PMKVY, trained 41.3 lakhs persons in first 3 years. Only 6.15 lakh of them have got jobs. Now, when it was pre-COVID, again I am saying, when was the situation, now what is going to happen if so much money has been spent? It's not the money, the shortage, like Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal says, crowdfunding, 12,000 crores, training for 41.3 lakhs people, and only 6.15 were they got the job. I don't know how much, because there was a report, they says that 20% who are getting the job, out of them only 3 or 4% are going to sustain after 1 year. Otherwise, they all been thrown out. Now, when this is the situation, my question to you is, do you think we have lacking of knowledge and dedication in teaching faculty? Because you represent presently a teaching faculty. Why? Because after all, a student who is coming to an institution, whether ITI or anywhere, the technical institution, why he's not been trained? Why he's not been trained for becoming employable? Why there is an employability question? Professor Dr. Pai, please.
To answer your question, sir, let me tell you with a heavy heart, education, when it was during the past, education was more of, offering, giving knowledge. But now education is a business and it is a money-making mechanism. Please go and see how many institutions are run by, who runs the education institutions. So offering education is not becoming a primary motive for the institutions. It is the sustenance model or the money-making model for all the institutions. And coming to the question on the government shelling out a lot of money on skill development, let me tell you, most of the time they are outsourced to private institutions, and there is no proper follow-up mechanism that subsequently happens. That is the reason they just cook some numbers and show percentage to the government that the money has been utilized, wherein the money was not well spent, knowledge was not imparted in the right way. That is what is the real problem in India.
Okay, thank you.
Can I join just for a quick second?
Yes, please.
Because I think Gyaneshwar was mentioning beautiful things, my thoughts also, so I want to thank him. But there's one more change which is required. Instead of giving input-based funding, they should give outcome-based funding. And outcome-based funding is that how many people from your institution have found a placement, have been interning, or have been accepted. Give me the numbers and we'll give you the money. That will take care of that.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal. Only I will say one thing. One side, we are privatizing everything. We give importance, whether it's an airport or anything. And one side, we criticize that the privatization is harmful. I think there is something missing. After all, the teachers are not running the institutions. The institution is run by the businessmen. The duty of the teaching or the educator is to educate. They are getting their fees, their salaries. They are getting the very, very fat pay salary. Why they are not educating? Anyway, that is a long discussion. Next time we will have this discussion again, where the fault lies. Thank you very much. Thank you. Because today's program, which has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, News Gaon se Samvad Sarokar News, as well as shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And I will tell you, the viewers, today's program has given insight that the educators are ready to give good ideas. Only thing is the idea should reach to the government and government should implement those. Then only the future of the technical education will be there. Otherwise, definitely the COVID returns has impacted very badly on technical education. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
as
Very
as
nice.
as you know that we have started our evening program where we are bringing one personality and we try to understand about the past, the present, and the future of that personality. That program is for half an hour duration in the evening at 4:30 p.m. every day. And the title of the program, it is in Hindi now, Kal Aaj aur Kal Lal Goel ke Sang. And today our chief guest is Mr. Surendra Khanna, former member, Indian Premier League, IPL, governing council. He is also the former Indian cricketer. He was a known wicket keeper and he won the man of the series in Asian Cup in UAE in 70s. And he is going to join and he will give the details about his early life, the present time, and what is his message to the youth. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.
Thank you very
you.
much, Professor
Thank
Dr.
you.
Mohanlal Agrawal, and thank you very much, Professor Dr. Janeshwar Bhai Marur, for joining us. And thank you all the viewers for watching our show. I am sure today's program has enlightened you about the problems faced by the technical institutions as well as the technical education, which is the problem is facing by the students. What is going to happen? The decision is with the civil society as well as the government. Thank you very much.